Family. Today we decode a story religion told literally. A king became proud, God punished him, and he lived like an animal. But this never aligned with God's nature. God doesn't humiliate people to teach lessons. God doesn't turn humans into animals. God doesn't use fear, madness, or punishment. So, what is this story? It is the biography of the ego. Every symbol, every detail, every fall and restoration is about the journey of consciousness. Daniel is a book about the inner kingdom, and Nebuchadnezzar represents the ego self that refuses to recognize the spirit. When ego sits on the throne, madness follows. When spirit is enthroned within, clarity and true kingship return. Let's decode it piece by piece. Nebuchadnezzar equals the unawakened ego. Nebuchadnezzar symbolizes the lower self, the identity built on pride, the illusion of separateness, the belief that I built myself, the mind that worships its own strength. He is the high, loud, impressive outer self, but spiritually blind. This is why he builds a golden image and forces everyone to bow. The ego always demands worship. It always wants to be the center. It always wants validation. It always wants control. Daniel equals the awakened spirit within. Daniel represents the inner spirit, the true consciousness connected to God. This is why Daniel interprets mysteries, sees visions, refuses the king's food, remains calm, remains faithful, rises above the chaos. He stands in contrast to Nebuchadnezzar. Spirit versus ego, identity versus illusion, awareness versus pride. And spirit always warns the ego, your heart is lifted up, your kingdom will fall. This isn't God threatening. This is the inner voice exposing where the ego is leading you. The dream of the great tree equals the rise and fall of the ego. Nebuchadnezzar dreams of a massive tree reaching the heavens. This is the outer self, big, powerful, visible, admired. Everyone feeds from it. But then, cut down the tree, leave the stump, bind it with iron and bronze. Let him become like a beast. Cut down the tree equals the collapse of egoic identity. Leave the stump equals the true self remains. Iron and bronze equals limitation and grounding. Become like a beast equals consciousness falls to its lowest form. This is not God attacking him. It's the natural consequence of pride. When ego rises too high, it must fall. Not as punishment, but as purification. This is Genesis 3 all over again. Eating from the wrong tree, falling in awareness, living from the soul, dust. The 7 years as a beast equals the soul in a state of sleep. Nebuchadnezzar becoming like an animal does not mean he literally turned into one. It symbolizes the beastly nature of the ego, reactive, fearful, instinctual, driven by survival, ruled by emotion, disconnected from spirit, unable to see truth. The 7 years represent a full cycle of spiritual sleep, the completeness of blindness before awakening begins. Religion says God punished the king, but the story says his reason departed from him, meaning when ego takes the throne, clarity leaves. Eating grass like an ox equals feeding on illusion. Grass represents earthly thinking, shallow understanding, survival mentality, living from instinct, not identity. Eating grass symbolizes feeding on low-level awareness. When you don't know who you are, you feed on anything. Validation, fear, pride, anger, approval, comparison, religion. You survive. You don't thrive. Hair grown like feathers and nails like claws equals identity deformed. Feathers equal a false sense of elevation. Claws equal trying to hold on to control. The ego looks elevated, but not in a spiritual way. The turning point. He looked toward heaven. This is the most important line in the entire story. I lifted my eyes toward heaven, and my understanding returned. Heaven equals higher consciousness. Lifting his eyes equals awakening. Understanding returns equals identity restored. The moment ego looks inward, the moment the false self bows, the moment pride breaks, the moment awareness rises, madness ends, identity returns, kingship is restored. This is spiritual awakening. The story says, "My kingdom was restored, even greater than before." This is the pattern. Ego rises, then collapses, then awakens, then spirit reigns, then restoration comes. The real message. Only your true self can reign. Nebuchadnezzar falling and rising is the cycle of humanity. We rise in ego, we forget who we are. We collapse under our illusions. We awaken. We return to our true identity. Spirit reclaims the throne. This story is not judgment. It is rebirth. It is awakening. It is identity restored after ego collapses. And Nebuchadnezzar ends the story with a revelation. Those who walk in pride, he is able to bring low, not punish, not destroy, not humiliate. It means awakening always shatters ego, not to destroy you, but to reveal who you truly are. Closing. The kingdom within must be ruled by spirit. Nebuchadnezzar was never a wicked king. He was the human soul asleep. He was you. He was me. He was all humanity before awakening. The story teaches that ego cannot reign. Pride leads to blindness. Identity collapses when it forgets its source. Falling is not punishment, it's purification. Restoration comes the moment awareness returns. Nebuchadnezzar didn't lose his mind. The ego lost its throne so the spirit could take it back. And that is the true gospel hidden inside Daniel.